Welcome to Singularity Animations, where we dive deep into history, science, and the fascinating stories that shaped our world. Today, we're re-looking at the top 7 greatest minds in science history. Not just for their groundbreaking discoveries, but also for their strange, eccentric, and sometimes downright bizarre habits. And trust me, the weirdest one of them all, involving a genius who had a very peculiar obsession, will absolutely shock you. Stay with me till the end. What if I told you that one of the most brilliant minds in science history carried around a box filled with the eyeballs of dead animals? Just for inspiration? Yes, geniuses aren't always normal. Their brilliance often comes with quirks, obsessions, and strange routines that made them who they were. Let's explore 7 of the greatest scientific minds and the weird habits that made them unforgettable. Isaac Newton, 1643 to 1727. The alchemist who forgot to eat. Isaac Newton is widely considered one of the greatest scientists in history. The man who gave us calculus, the laws of motion, and universal gravity. But behind the brilliance was a man whose habits bordered on extreme obsession. Newton would become so consumed with his experiments that he often forgot to eat. There are records of him going days without food, lost in thought while scribbling mathematical proofs or conducting dangerous alchemical experiments. Yes, alchemy. Newton was just the father of modern physics. He was also an alchemist who believed he could turn base metals into gold. In his private notes, he described recipes for mysterious substances with names like the Green Lion and philosophical mercury. Some historians believe his exposure to toxic mercury and lead during these experiments may have damaged his health and even contributed to his eccentric behavior, perhaps most unsettling. Newton once stared at the sun for so long during an experiment with optics that he nearly blinded himself. He later wrote that he saw after images for months. For Newton, curiosity outweighed comfort, and sometimes common sense. Nikola Tesla, 1856 to 1943. The obsessive germaphobe Nikola Tesla, the brilliant Serbian-American inventor who revolutionized electricity with alternating current AC, was not only a genius but also a man plagued by strange Tesla had a deep phobia of germs and avoided handshakes whenever possible. He also had a strange obsession with the number 3. He would do things in sets of 3. Walk around a block 3 times before entering a building, or wash his hands 3 times in a row. When staying in hotels, he insisted on rooms with numbers divisible by 3. His phobias extended to pearls. Tesla reportedly refused to speak to women wearing pearl jewelry. Once, when his secretary came to work with pearl earrings, Tesla sent her home. Despite these quirks, Tesla's eccentricity fueled his creativity. He envisioned wireless energy transmission, radar, and even smartphones long before they became reality. Sadly, he died poor and alone in a New York hotel room, with only pigeons, which he adored and fed daily, as his companions. Tesla once confessed he loved a particular white pigeon, as he would love a person, claiming she gave his life purpose. Albert Einstein, 1879 to 1955. The forgetful genius Albert Einstein, the face of genius itself, wasn't immune to strange quirks. His hair was famously unkempt, but his absent-mindedness went far beyond his hairstyle. Einstein often forgot simple daily tasks. He misplaced keys, missed trains, and once showed up to a lecture without socks. In fact, he reportedly refused to wear socks altogether, declaring them unnecessary because toes eventually wear holes in them. Instead, he preferred sandals, even in winter. Einstein also had peculiar eating habits. He was mostly vegetarian, believing meat consumption wasn't necessary for humans. He once joked that he was a vegetarian by instinct. He also had a deep love for ice cream, often sending assistants on errands to fetch it for him. Despite his quirks, Einstein revolutionized physics with relativity, reshaping how we understand time and space. His forgetfulness may have frustrated those around him, but it freed his mind from trivial details so he could focus on the cosmos itself. Charles Darwin, 1809 to 1882. The collector of odd things. Charles Darwin, the father of evolution, had a lifelong obsession with collecting. As a young man, he joined a club at Cambridge University called the Glutton Club, where members sought to eat exotic animals. Darwin sampled hawks, owls, and even a puma. His collecting habit extended beyond food. During his famous voyage on the HMS Beagle, Darwin filled crates with fossils, bones, plants, and live animals. He even sent home crates containing giant tortoises, which his family sometimes ate for dinner before realizing their scientific value. But Darwin's quirks weren't limited to collecting. He had chronic digestive problems, possibly stress-induced, and often worked lying down on a sofa rather than sitting at a desk. Despite his ailments, Darwin's meticulous observations gave us the theory of natural selection. One of the most profound ideas in science, Galileo Galilei 1564–1642. Esteban Schumann Galileo, the Italian astronomer who championed the heliocentric model of the solar system, was both a scientific pioneer and a man with a flair for drama. He loved showing off his telescopes, inviting nobles and church officials to gaze at the moon's craters and Jupiter's moons. But Galileo also had a stubborn streak. When confronted by the Catholic Church, which demanded he recant his belief that the Earth revolved around the sun, Galileo reportedly muttered the defiant words, "I per si muove." And yet, it moves. His weird habits included a fascination with pendulums. He would spend hours watching swinging lamps in cathedrals, calculating their rhythms with his pulse. He also had a sharp tongue. In his writings, he mocked critics by giving them names like Simplicio, which roughly translates to Not surprisingly, this earned him powerful enemies. Galileo's boldness landed him under house arrest for the last decade of his life, but he never stopped experimenting. Ibn Confinet, he wrote scientific works that changed the course of history. Marie Curie, 1867 to 1934. The scientist who glowed, Marie Curie, the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, and the only person to win Nobel Prizes in two different sciences, physics and chemistry, lived a life of brilliance and quiet strangeness. Curie discovered radium and polonium, pioneering research on radioactivity. But at the time, the dangers of radiation were not fully understood. Curie often carried glowing test tubes of radium in her pockets. Fascinated by their eerie light, she kept samples by her bedside as nightlights. Unfortunately, these habits had tragic consequences. Prolonged exposure to radiation likely caused the aplastic anemia that killed her. Even today, Curie's notebooks, over a century old, are so radioactive they must be stored in lead-lined boxers, and anyone who wishes to read them must wear protective clothing. Despite the risks, Curie's obsession with science led to medical breakthroughs that saved millions of lives through radiation therapy. Her strange habit of carrying glowing vials made her seem almost supernatural in her time. A woman literally illuminated by her discoveries, Leonardo da Vinci, 1452 to 1519. The man of peculiar passions, and now the strangest mind of them all, Leonardo da Vinci, a painter, engineer, anatomist, and visionary. Leonardo was perhaps the ultimate Renaissance genius, but his habits were as unusual as his brilliance. Leonardo was a chronic procrastinator. He left behind dozens of unfinished paintings and manuscripts, including the Mona Lisa, which he tinkered with for years. He also practiced polyphasic sleep, napping for 15 to 20 minutes every few hours instead of sleeping through the night, believing it gave him more time to work. But Leonardo's strangest habit involved his fascination with the grotesque. He frequently dissected human corpses in secret, sketching detailed anatomical drawings centuries ahead of their time. Yet, his curiosity didn't stop there. According to historical accounts, Leonardo collected bizarre objects for inspiration, including animal parts. Most shockingly, he carried around preserved animal eyeballs, studying the way they reflected light. Some believe this obsession helped him paint eyes with such uncanny realism. Remember the hook from the beginning? Yes, Leonardo, the painter of the Mona Lisa, may have been inspired by jars of animal eyeballs he kept with him. So, what do these 7 great minds teach us? That genius and eccentricity often walk hand in hand. From Newton nearly blinding himself with sunlight, to Tesla's fear of pearls, Einstein's missing socks, Darwin's exotic snacks, Galileo's defiance, Curie's glowing test tubes, and Leonardo's box of eyeballs. History shows us that the quirks we might call weird were often part of what made these minds extraordinary. Maybe, just maybe, being a little weird is a secret ingredient to greatness. If you enjoyed this journey into the brilliant and bizarre, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Singularity Animations. Which of these habits shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And stay tuned for more fascinating explorations of science, history, and the human
Ancient
mind.
world.